Hi, I'm Sarah from The Upcoming. So lovely to have you here with us. Maybe you could just kick off with a brief intro to your film. For people who aren't familiar with it, what can they expect when they go and see it?
So, A Banquet is like a very slow-burning psychological horror. It's kind of a psychodrama. That's how I prefer to describe it. About a family that are dealing with the aftermath of a father's suicide. So, a mother who has two teenage daughters, one of whom has a kind of spiritual experience, or what she believes to be an epiphany, and that manifests in her stopping eating. So it's really about what that does to the family and how it destroys this unit.
And what inspired this film? Because there's lots of things going on there and lots of issues that it touches upon, but you've decided to tell it through the horror genre. So, how did this concept come to mind?
Well, I mean, it was somebody else's script, so, it was Justin's script, and, the themes were very, very profound for me. I really, related to lots of things that was going on in it. And I think, in the original script, it was probably a little bit more supernatural. But when I came into it, I kind of wanted to root it more in reality and have it be a little bit more ambiguous as to what was going on. And I think, it is a horror film. It's got horrible moments in it, and, there are a couple of jump scares, and there's a lot of kind of body gore and things like that. But the horror is really about the disintegration of a family and what happens particularly to the other daughter as a result of the elder daughter's pursuit. So it's kind of like, I've heard people talk a lot about this kind of transcendental horror, which is less about monsters and supernatural or otherworldly things, and more about like facing up to the really horrible things about being human. And that's what I'm interested in. And in the past I've made work that's been labelled as horror films. I don't think it necessarily is. It's just kind of life, but yeah, it leans into it more in a more celebratory way, this film.
And do you see that it's kind of part of a trend, let's say, of particularly female filmmakers delving into these kind of cross-genre stories? I always think of like Rose Glass's say Maud, which was incredibly successful, and perhaps delve more into the psychological. And why do you think that is?
Honestly, I don't have an answer, but I recognise the trend. I see that with Prano's film as well, and obviously Rose's. And I think, like filmmakers like Eggers and Ari Aster were the first to kind of kick off this possibly transcendental vibe. And I think maybe the reason, I wonder if for women, it's difficult to talk about it without making general statements, but I wonder if we think about our feelings more, if we talk about our feelings more. I think the female body is kind of a hotbed of horror. There's a lot of blood involved, there's a lot of pain involved in being a woman, kind of just in a basic level. And I think, I don't know, maybe we're more in tune with that. But I'm always kind of wary of I don't know the answer. But certainly, I wonder if women are a bit keener to understand why we might feel the way we feel about things.
And certainly, it's an ongoing issue, and one that keeps rearing its head about women's relationship with their bodies, not feeling ownership over them. Like you say, kind of like the things that can seem like horror on one aspect, and with social media, dysmorphia and things like that. So is that another lens through which, you were really interested in looking at the story?
I think so. I mean, the themes to do with disordered eating, or what could be perceived as disordered eating in my film, are definitely something I was familiar with, and something I was have experienced, as have majority of women, I think, that have a difficult relationship with food in their bodies. And I think also that's a very specific relationship to mother and daughter. That's, you learn about nourishment and food, and you learn about how you think about yourself, typically from your mum. Not always, but you often. And certainly that's my experience, I should say. So, that and the idea of mental ill health and that being generational for this family, kind of just like our big cluster of things that came together to make the themes sing, I think.
Mm-hmm. And just tell us a little bit about some of the casting decisions and the highlights and challenges on set of making the film.
Okay, so casting-wise, we knew we wanted to cast the mother first, Holly, and Sienna Guillory had been suggested by a number of people, and I was really fortunate in that I had the opportunity to meet her just before the first lockdown, so I got to actually be in a room with her, and that was amazing because the minute I met her, I knew she was right. not least because it was quite an unusual for her she came to Edinburgh, where I live, to meet me because she really wanted to do it, and that's just, you know, kind of showed a level of commitment and interest in the project that was really exciting. It was just really weird not to have to come to London, so that was great. But what also was really cool about that was that, you know, Sienna's a very stylish, unique individual, and that really started to influence how I saw the character. So, you know, she's knitted into it in that way. And then we knew after that it would need to be Betsy that was cast, and, you know, we saw a lot of young women for that role, and Jessica, who we ultimately cast, was kind of the antithesis of what I thought we needed and wanted. I kind of had, because she's a prophetess, I had this idea of like young, virginal, kind of biblical type character with long hair and an innocence about her, whereas Jessica's actually quite dark and brooding and has an incredibly deep voice. So she just stole it away.
And just finally, how does it feel to have the film here at LFF?
It's amazing. It's amazing. It really is. You know, it's especially after this past couple of years, to be able to attend and to have this audience is a big deal. And I love London. You know, I mean, it's an amazing festival to be at. So we hoped it would come here, and it has. So I'm very grateful.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much for sharing all that with us, and enjoy the rest of the festival.
Thank you very much. Sorry.